Welcome to Panasonic and Goecker, Denmark. Today I'm going to talk about some of the Christmas goodies that we have in the current high-end lineup of Panasonic Lumix cameras in the full frame and micro four thirds series. So first off is the 4 compact prime lenses that we just newly released here, the 35mm 1.8. That was the last lens to come out, and we also have a 24mm f1.8 here that came out recently. We also have the 50mm 1.8 and 85mm 1.8. There's also a 5th lens coming out in this compact prime series, which is the 18mm f1.8 as well. These 4 lenses have very similar weight distribution and weight, so that means if you put these on a gimbal, you don't need to rebalance your gimbal or a glide cam for using them on the fly. That's very convenient. The lenses also have exact the same physical appearance, which means you have the focus ring and everything is just the same. It's actually the same physical appearance of all the lenses. Also, the front lens diameter here is of course the same. It's all 67mm, so the filters are all going to fit here and easy swappable. So that's about the lenses for the S system. We also have one new lens for micro four thirds system, which is the Lumix DG Leica Sumilux, which is a 25 to 50mm lens in f1.7, which is f1.7 over the full range of the zoom lens. What is really fantastic about this lens and really quite unique is the appearance of a zoom lens, which is performing just like 5 different prime lenses in f1.7. It's also designed for videographers, so that means you have a constant iris opening here, which is stepless. There's no clicks here on the aperture setting on the lens. It also has a manual focus ring that you have a clutch here, so if you want to focus manually with this lens, you just engage the clutch here, so it will switch over to manual focus automatically. And of course you can use it with autofocus just like regular lenses. So that's a 25 to 50mm f1.7. It's also coming in a pair with the 10 to 25mm lens that we released a while ago. And this is also a constant f1.7 lens in the Vario Sumilux series, 10 to 25 and 25 to 50. So it covers 10 to 50mm in just 2 lenses. And that's a constant f1.7 for micro four thirds system. This is same here. We have the focus clutch and a stepless aperture iris opening here, and just like the compact primes here, we have a design feature, which is the lenses are identical in size and weight, so these are also hot swappable in gimbals. Very, very easy to use with for videographers. That's about it with lenses. When it comes to cameras, we have the Lumix S5 that we want to highlight here in this little Christmas episode. And the S5 is really one of our cameras that can do a lot of video work and is also a very, very good high-performance still camera with full-frame sensor. So the sensor in this camera is a 24-megapixel sensor. We have lots of features for stills photographers. One of them is high-resolution shot, so you can put this on a tripod and you can have a 96-megapixel frame in RAW from 8 different exposures. It's called pixel shift. We also have time-lapse in this camera. We have stop-motion animation, which is really fun for Christmas, stop-motion. And it really is a creative tool for lots of different users. So I really want to highlight this camera. And it's also very compact, so with the new compact primes this camera fits very well into that ecosystem. I'm going to show some pictures here from the compact prime lenses shot on the Lumix S5. So here is the 50mm 1.8, just to show the bokeh and the fantastic sharpness that comes out of this lens at wide open at 1.8. This is a real close-up, 100%. The lenses also have a 9-bladed diaphragm, so the aperture is looking really nice in sun flares and stuff like that. I'm also, since we talk lenses here, I'm going to show the Sumilux 25 to 50mm lens that I talked about here. This lens is absolutely fantastic when it comes to creamy bokeh, very nice kind of full frame look on Micro Four Thirds. Also the lens is very, very well adapted for close focusing and macro shots. So that's a little bit of that. So when it comes to Micro Four Thirds cameras, we have, of course, the Gh5 Mark II that we released quite recently. And this is a refresh of the old GH5, but it's also a brand new camera. I would like to really put pressure on that. This is a very, very updated model of the GH5. We have pretty much updated every little aspect of the camera, so it really becomes something new here. I'm going to show a little bit of what the news is with the Gh5 Mark II. So if you can see here, the red marked specifications here are the things that are new in this camera, and the black ones are the old GH5, and the blue ones is the new specification that comes from a recent firmware upgrade that just came out on the 30th of November. What is really unique about the Gh5 Mark II is, of course, the built-in live streaming features, which makes this camera able to live stream football games, sports, and also indoor events like seminars. Is a perfect way of using this camera to live stream to Facebook or YouTube Live, for instance, or any other provider for that matter. And this is very, very easy to accomplish with the Gh5 Mark II. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to be able to use this camera for live stream. It's very, very simple. We have scaled it down to the bare minimum of what you need to do to get live streaming out of this camera. So basically you can just use the app connected via Bluetooth to the camera. So it just connects to the nearest Wi-Fi network on a hotel or in your home, wherever. Or also, of course, you can use the iPhone or an Android phone as your Wi-Fi connection there for 4G. So you can live stream pretty much anywhere from anywhere with this camera, and also in a very high quality, up to 1080p in 60 frames per second at the highest, and also in a very, very good bit rate, so you can get really super good quality out of this camera. To be able to really test this out, all this summer I was live streaming football game for my daughter. So as you can see here on the picture, I had it standalone for live streaming on just a monopod like this, with just a stereo microphone on it. And I was doing this for just any day of the summer. You know, sometimes it's really raining, and that didn't stop me from using the Gh5 Mark II, of course, because it's really weather sealed. So I was doing live streaming of football games during the COVID pandemic when parents couldn't be there and watch the series, and it was just raining a lot sometimes, and it just kept working. So I'm going to show here just a short video of what this camera can really do for you if you want to live stream football or other events. So here we go. As you can see here, the autofocus is really good here. It's tracking the players. And what you can see right here is the live stream captured from YouTube. So you can see exactly the quality and what it looks like on YouTube when it goes live. And it's just very, very simple. very simple to use like this. It takes only a few minutes to get going. Also, to really show how easy this camera is to set up for live streaming, I was in the summer setting up the camera on a kayak out at sea on the ocean, which is maybe nothing I would really recommend for an expensive camera like this. But I was testing it out just to see if it was possible to live stream from a very unsteady platform like that. You know, you don't have a lot of time to pick up your phone and get streaming with it, but still it actually worked. So here's a short clip where I'm showing what it looked like just from the camera film from the Gh5 Mark II on a suction cup there on the sea kayak. Also, we just released a new firmware for the Gh5 Mark II, which is really putting this camera up in the high-end business here, because we can do now tethered live streaming, which means you can use a cable to connect with Lightning connector to your phone directly over USB-C to your iPhone, or of course Android phones with respective cables. And also there's a possibility to use one of these Ethernet adapters now, so you can hook up the camera to an internal wired network in your home or in your studio, so you can actually access the camera and get a high quality up to 4K 60 and 10 bits signal from the camera over Ethernet. So it kind of just became a networking camera all of a sudden with this firmware release. Also, what is really exciting here is that when you are using a cable to your iPhone, for instance, to use the iPhone as a 4G connection, you can also get a higher quality of the streaming to YouTube and Facebook. So you can do 4K resolution now in streaming, in live streaming, which is absolutely fantastic. So that is enough about the Gh5 Mark II. Now I'm going to also talk about the new box cameras that we released just some time ago here. So last to be released was the BS1H, which is the full frame version of the box camera. And we now have the two box cameras here, which is the Micro Four Thirds version, the BGH1, and we also have now the BS1H, which is the full frame version. So there really is not much difference between these two cameras besides the size of the sensor, of course, and the performance of the sensor itself. But these two cameras are very, very similar. In fact, they are identical when it comes to features and using the camera in reality. So that means you can actually just kind of hot swap between these cameras, not maybe hot swap, but you can swap between those two cameras, and it's going to work very well in terms of matching and using the user interface and everything. So the cameras come without a screen, and it also comes without a battery, so there are many different powering options they can use these cameras with. For one, you can buy a battery, of course, and you can run this for many hours because it's a big battery. But you can also power the camera directly from the supplied power adapter, so you don't need to think about batteries. The camera comes with this power supply. But you can also run Ethernet to the camera. It has an Ethernet port here on the back, which means you can actually power the camera over Ethernet. So you don't need anything else than just a Ethernet cable to the camera, and it will have power supply, and you can also do the video recording externally over Ethernet. So you can do that over up to 4K and 60 frames per second and 10 bits to your computer. So the main thought about these cameras, the main target is with the Micro Four Thirds version. Of course, it's very, very well suited for a streaming camera, but also for cinema use, of course, and especially the full frame version here, which is a fantastic small box type cinema camera. And because of the size of this camera, don't know if you can really see this here on the video, but it's extremely small and very lightweight. So the size of the camera is roughly 10 centimeters on all sides. It's just a little shorter than 10 centimeters on the depth here, on this end. So I think it's 7 centimeters. And the weight of the camera is only 580 grams with just the box in the full frame version, which makes this camera also an interesting option for, let's say, also almost helmet cameras, you know, or a camera mounted on a vehicle, on a motorcycle, on your chest for different cinema scenarios, and also, of course, for live streaming. These two work, both of them work very well for live streaming, but the bigger full frame camera is, of course, a more kind of a cinema camera feature packed here. So don't miss out on these cameras. That's what we have for Christmas here, and I hope that you will find something that is interesting to you. So I wish everyone here a very happy Christmas, and see you next year. Bye.